What's up to all of our sidekicks and henchmen out there in the Geek Nation? I'm Johnny Destructo. You're here currently enjoying the Spoiler Alert podcast, wherein we will talk about this week's books, probably some pop culture stuff, and it's going to be a blast whether or not you want it to be. You're gonna enjoy it so much you're gonna crap someone else's pants. I'm your host, Johnny Destructo. With me this week is Noel.
Hi. It's rather presumptuous to think that everyone's enjoying it like second number 2. But I feel what you're saying.
Are you enjoying it?
I always enjoy breathing. Oh. So my bar is super low.
Very low, I see. Anything above that is just cheesecake. Also with us this week is Len.
Hey, what's up, everybody? How's your boy? This is Len, a.k.a. The Bat Tribble. I just want to let you know, ladies and gentlemen, if you could see and listen to the four of us before we go live, you will see proof positive that you will never, ever see a movie that begins with the statement, "and a gang of geeks terrorized the city." Because these geeks, we ain't terrorizing anything. We can't even clap together.
No matter
the sound will sync on its own. It's fine.
We're all riddled with the clap, but even still, we cannot make the motion simultaneously. Also with us this week is Brian Lieb.
You're right, JD. I am with you this week, and I've been enjoying it since the moment that you instructed us to.
Perfect. That's what I like.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. I got a thing. Noel gets introduced as Noel, and I get introduced as Len. Yeah. But why does Brian get his full government put out there?
I know this. I know the answer to this. No. Because he is Brian Lieb of the famed Brian Lieb Designs.
Yeah.
That's all.
The Brian Lieb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do introduce myself sometimes with the article. I'm the Brian Lieb.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've heard of me. And they say, yes. Why did you introduce yourself? We knew who you were a mile away.
I'm your mother. Yeah, you don't have to call yourself the Brian Lieb every time.
Yeah.
The is implied. It's fine.
Family events
is already in the chat saying no baby for JD yet, and I can't tell if that's a question or like, is it his fault? Like, is he like, no baby for JD yet? Not till I'm good and ready.
He's in denial. Like he's not ready for it yet.
Yeah.
He's very stressed about your fatherhood.
Dan H says, good morning. Hi, Dan H. Brian needs to get a stepladder and hang some posters on either side of that metal railing behind him.
I'll tell you what. 'Cause I like to my right and my left, I got a lot of cool looking stuff.
Sure.
But you can't see it. And also, unfortunately, I have to move soon. So I'm not going to do that. But
fair enough.
Yeah.
What did you do your last month? Well, I decorated.
Yeah. I got it just right.
Things. I got it exactly how I wanted, and then I just left.
Yeah.
What's up, action figure expert? How you doing, buddy? Thanks so much for joining us, everyone. We usually would throw it to the letter section of the show. We don't have any letters, so
we don't have letters.
Straight.
No one likes us.
No one likes us. It's true. So there is something I want to mention, and that is if you go to the YouTube page right now, or maybe after this show, we have done a video where this is like 9 minutes of us opening Christmas presents from Carl Carls, longtime listener of the show, who mailed us a lovely, what would you call it, a gift package from Australia.
Yes, I would call them gifts.
Yeah, I would call them. And in a package.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Packages within packages. So that was a lot of fun. Thank you, Carl. And the first book we're going to do is one of the books that he sent all of us. He sent all of us Adventure Illustrated from Cyclone Comics, and it's signed.
Yeah.
And this is an Australian comic book from King Comics, which is, I think, a comic shop / publisher. And yeah.
Good bag.
So this is an anthology series, it looks like, which brings together, the first story brings together a bunch of different Desperate? I always say that wrong.
Disparate.
Disparate.
I say disparate. Yeah.
Disparate characters, Australian characters, for a big team up. Yeah.
I did a tiny bit of research, and this was actually a Kickstarter book.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so I think it was a bunch of public domain characters with history and legacy and lore in Australia that they kickstarted together to create kind of this anthology book. I don't know if there's an issue 2 yet, but it's intended, obviously, you guys read it, it's intended to be an anthology ongoing.
Okay.
Oh, interesting.
Well, as Carl's made sure to tell us at least 4 times, we're not getting any more packages. So you won't be seeing any more issues of
Never again.
Illustrated.
And I've never seen this on sale in the U.S., so.
No.
Well, it only just published November 2020, so it's fairly recent.
Pretty new.
Now, Noel, did you happen to come across, is King's Comics like a comic store that has decided to venture into comics publishing?
I didn't look into the publishing. I didn't look into the characters' histories, and I didn't look into the creators. I just kind of did a cursory search in order to figure out how to articulate the solicitation, and I ended up finding out like it was kickstarted late 2019. It just kind of got fulfilled. It was a whole thing.
Oh, cool.
Well, I don't know if King Comics is a comic book store, but they obviously are ready for whatever because they put their address dead on the back. Yeah. Like it's not even in like the small print. It is right there. Come find us, bruh. Clarence
Somebody's
Street,
pointing right at it.
Sydney.
Yeah, that's Flash Domingo. That's his. That's his freaking paw.
Yeah,
I didn't
come
notice
see me.
And well, the reason that I wondered if it was a comic store is that one of the bags said King's Comics on it. One of the bags that we got these in, and so I wonder if they are a store that was like, "Hey, we could do that. We could get into it."
How much you want to? Yeah, sure. How much you want to bet that they were part of the Kickstarter and they got a bunch of, and then Carl's hooked us up. Maybe.
I don't want to bet. I don't want to bet on it. No, I'm not.
Do you want to bet on that? I feel like it's a solid conjecture based on absolutely no evidence other than circular. Yeah.
I heard that King's Comics was created from Jews using a space laser.
Jesus.
Yeah, we create a lot of stuff. It's cool.
Well, I mean, wait, hang on.
You guys are space lasering everything.
I mean, that's where all the wildfires in Australia came from. They were trying to get at King's Comics,
and we did. Oh my god, that
Outback.
Stuff. Oh, that stuff is so.
Carl, is this what you were looking for when you sent us these very thoughtful gifts? Sparkling repartee on your home.
Yeah. Let me. We thanked him on the video, but I want to thank him here again. These were like really well thought out, like very personalized and very cool and exciting gifts. We got this comic, and he got us an individual thing each.
That's true.
Yeah.
If you want to find out more, watch the video.
Yeah.
Do it.
I'm telling you here.
No, what you think of this comic book?
It was fun. It's an so like you have to kind of turn your brain into a different setting for an anthology book, knowing that it's going to be fractions of stories, not unlike how my brain functions differently when it comes to single issue series or an OGN. You have more patience or less patience with something based off what it is. So I knew right off the bat that this is going to be a butt ton of teasers. Mm-hmm. So like I was able to just kind of like stick into that. And I paid more attention to, because these are all creators, I have absolutely no idea who they are. I've never read or seen any of their art. I was impressed. I was impressed because they're very short, but they're very, very specific in tone. So the first one is very much a retread of like pulpy weirdness with all kinds of guys and guys and gals in colorful costumes talking about like what happened to Flash Domingo, which is a sentient platypus with robotic arms.
With a very strange accent.
Oh yeah. I started reading him and hearing him as
George R. Binks.
No, the chancellors in Phantom Menace.
Oh.
So
a different Star Wars character from the same movie, though.
Yeah, the trade negotiation guys or the Trade Federation. Who were those characters? Yeah, I started hearing them as the Trade Federation, which is kind of problematic, but still, like for some reason, that's what I heard.
Well, now it might be like I just figured it was an Australian dialect with which we are not familiar. Being caught, I mean, who knows?
I don't know, but
But
it
anyway,
was
go on.
it was cute, and there were so many weird choices. Like I wasn't exactly sure if this is for adults or if it's for kids or if it's all ages, because you've got these bright, colorful characters, and then all of a sudden, the big monster has a ball gag for no reason.
Yeah.
Well,
So
there is
I
a
was-
reason.
Yeah.
That's true. That's very
good point.
true. That's true.
Did I miss it?
Yeah.
I mean, there are actually
Yeah.
two entities, right? And the ball gag.
That's right. The ball
Yeah.
gag. Okay, yeah, okay. But it's just the visual of it, though, is just like, this is a real specific joke.
Yeah.
All right. But then, so I enjoyed that. But for some reason, I loved the middle one. The Alan Moore under the sea
The Alan
Yeah,
Moore.
that was cool.
comes up to just tell everyone they're fucking stupid
Yeah.
and then goes back. I actually thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
And then the lead
it
out
was
is
a very
like
specific joke.
a
Yeah.
bunch of questions. Like, who is this guy? What does he want?
Oh, yeah.
None of these things will be answered in issue number 2.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
fun.
I thought that was wonderful. The third one I think was kind of the weakest. The landscape layouts. The art was really nice, but some of the characters looked like they didn't belong together in the same comic because they were just depicted differently. And I really liked the coloring on it, like the red, the choices for red and what was red. I was looking for meaning, even if it wasn't there. It was still really pretty. Overall, this was a solid package. I enjoyed it.
Nice.
See, it's interesting that you said I found myself enjoying the Alan Moore one because that was just like balls out funny. And if there was any doubt whether or not this was an all ages book or for adults, the vision of Alan Moore and his member definitely let me know, like, oh,
That was the
This is-
dangling PP.
right. This is, I see who this is for. It's funny that you said like the Flash Domingo character is a little problematic. I found the last story, the Gorilla Land one, a little problematic in that it felt like some old 30s, 40s Tarzan movie ripoff with like some very strong racist and prejudice overtones in it. That being said, however, I still found myself, enjoying it for the most part, enjoying the audacity of it. The art still kind of sucked me in a little bit, as much as they all definitely look like caricatures. I was still with that. It felt, there was an energy, there was a fluidity. Considering how as much is happening on the page, I didn't lose track of what was happening or how to read it. There was some adult humor, there was kid humor, there was some attempts at suspense. The early first couple of pages that are like this drill down to this scene of the skeleton standing in front of this huge door.
That was rad.
I thought that was extremely well done and thought out from a cinematic point of view. So I really enjoyed that, and especially enjoyed that, seeing that was the end of the book. So I was like, oh, that definitely has me primed for more. And then speaking to the main writer, I think Gary Shaloner, who is actually one of the people that signed the book for us. I think to your point, Noel, he does write most of these stories in a different tone, and therefore seems like I would be interested in following his writing. It's pretty cool.
The last I didn't mention, like, the last story has problematic aspects to it, but in a weird way, if he was attempting to create these different tones and them to be very specific pastiches of very specific times in culture or in entertainment, he captured them accurately as to how they were treated before. So in a really weird way, they're problematic, but successfully problematic. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like when you watch a movie
Right.
now from the 50s and how they treat certain things, it's like, oh, okay. All right. Like it's not cool, but they were going for that.
Mm-hmm.
We also don't know, like,
Yeah.
this is hardly a full story, and we don't know which tropes will be subverted, if
Exactly.
any, but it's possible.
Yeah, but there's it was a very successful, or the execution was very of a time,
Yeah.
successfully so. That it
Even
was
how
like,
he treats, like, not just the indigenous peoples of that, of that island, but like the way that one guy talks to his associate is like straight from that kind of movie, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just the way that Flash Domingo and all the other, like it's very like, Toots and Rod and check this out. Like it's very of a specific era.
And we also don't know, like, I am not that conversant with the culture that produced this comic, and what of that is seen in a different light there. And, I mean, maybe Toots is something they call everybody all the time. I don't think so, but what I mean?
I'm not attempting to litigate.
No. I'm just bringing that up as a, just a reality of it. Like, this is coming from somewhere else. It reminds me of when I got a book from England once, and I was told by my stepdad that they often translate things, even though it's written in English. They'll be like idioms that, one guy was like, I wouldn't trade that for a big clock. And I was like, well, is that an option? Right. Oh, I saw what Action Figure Expert said. Actually, King's Comics was made by a pastor that could turn into a dinosaur, which I cannot figure out any reference to that, and can only assume that is the actual story then.
Is it
of King's Comics? It's
Velocipaster? What kind of dinosaur?
Dude, let me tell you, the Black Tribbles just did 30 minutes on Velocipaster this past Thursday. It is actually a thing, this movie.
Is that a real thing? Mm-hmm. I thought Noel just made it up real quick.
No, it's a movie.
It's a movie. It's a movie. It's insane. I've only seen the trailer, so I don't know how real it is, but it's insane. It's bananas. It's bonkers.
It's available on Prime. Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
JD, what did you think
of this comic?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you didn't say what you thought.
It was fine.
All right. Sweet.
I thought the middle one was the best of them.
I think
I didn't finish the third of the entries in this book. And the first one, I was just kind of like, it was fine. It was cute. The art was nice. The coloring was great. I can't say I reacted emotionally to any of it. Yeah. But I certainly appreciate the effort. That
it reminded me of a boom time in the 90s for comics, when you got a lot of stuff like this that you'd never heard of before, and most times because they didn't exist, but sometimes because they were doing something from public domain. And that was a fun aspect of it. I wonder, in the first story, how many of those characters have interacted before this? Yeah. Were these like characters like a 2000 AD thing where they're all owned by the same people? But I don't have a lot of knowledge of 2000 AD, but that's my understanding of it.
I almost think this is funny, thinking of it as like a bargain bin League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. This is a 10-cent rack version of that, like the first story, which I think is kind of funny.
Yeah. I think the tongue-in-cheek tone is definitely what they were going for. Oh, guys, we didn't even bring up Dark Claw, the amalgam Batman and Wolverine. Or I think Noel also pointed out that he is very similar to the Wolverine Batman. The Wolverine from X-23. Did you guys also realize or notice they used the name Adam West in one of these? Yeah.
That was
the
dossiers. Which, did you read all of those? I skimmed them.
I skimmed them. I got to a point where, like, I would read when you could read it entirely, and but it kind of cuts off. I'll tell you, the Alan Moore thing, I didn't get that at all. I was picturing Rasputin the whole time. I was
wow, really?
Yeah. I also think of Alan Moore as Rasputin. So.
Oh, yeah, maybe. I mean,
Alan Moore thinks of Alan Moore as Rasputin. So
he's unkillable. I think he has also been poisoned and stabbed and burnt and still is kicking.
How could he have avoided it at this point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for sending those books. It was really awesome, Carls. I myself have a John Constantine noir graphic novel to read, which I'm very excited about, so thank you. Let's move on to the other history of the DC Universe #2 from DC Comics, written by John Ridley with art by Giuseppe Camuncoli and Andrea Cucci. No,
Sure.
It's not Cucci. All right.
I mean, if it's Italian, yeah, there's
What's
two
the
seasons.
CCI? Yeah.
Before the new Teen Titans, there were the original Teen Titans in the tumultuous 1970s in an America that was very different than today, but in many ways all too familiar. The trials and tribulations of these young heroes were witnessed by two of DC's first black superheroes, Karen Beecher Duncan, better known as Bumblebee, and Mal Duncan, even if their versions of events are often at odds. And across that decade, they fought for their seats at the Titans table while joining the battle against injustice. The long-awaited miniseries continues to look at the mythology of the DC Universe as seen through the prism of DC superheroes who come from traditionally disenfranchised groups. The first issue of this that we did was from the point of view of Black Lightning, and it's probably one of my favorite single issues of last year. So I was really excited to read this. I know little to nothing about Bumblebee and Mal Duncan, other than what I saw on the Young Justice cartoon, which is my first interaction with those guys. And I was like, who are these kids on campus?
With either of them? Really? Wow.
Yeah.
I knew Bumblebee.
I did not know. Like, I think I'd probably seen her, but as far as like a story with them involved, Young Justice. So I was kind of curious to see how this was going to play out. And while I think, this might be my own interaction with the piece itself, but my version of the issue 1 was kind of like an overarching look at the DC universe. And I thought that was really engaging, and it brought about a different perspective of the DC universe. This is very specifically steeped in the Titans. And so I don't know if I would be able to recommend this second issue as highly as I recommend the first issue, even though I enjoyed it almost as much. I do not have a lot of Silver Age. Silver Age? Yeah, because I came in on the Modern Age with the Marv Wolfman stuff. So I don't have a lot of early Titans experience. But this was awesome. This was great. And I actually gasped out loud at one point. Which was a neat response when they came to the wedding.
Oh.
And she says, "Nobody came to our wedding." And I was like, "Are you freaking kidding me? None of the Titans?" Yeah. And meanwhile, it's on a double-page spread of Donna Troy's wedding where everybody's there. So, a little heartbreaking, this story. But I really enjoyed it. It was really well done. Engaging all the way through. It's very text heavy, so be aware, switch your brain to a different calibration when you're about to open up one of these issues. It's a lot of text, but boy, is it worth it. I thought this was great. What did you think, Brian?
I also enjoyed it. I did not enjoy it quite as much as I enjoyed the first one. I think Black Lightning is a cooler character for me. You know what I mean? Like and now that you mention it, somewhat of it just being like an overview of the DC universe. But I did really like it still, I still thought it was really good. I think I noticed more in this one, that thing that sometimes retrospective history comics do, where they reframe something that happened that wasn't that at all. You know what I mean? Like, I have no idea how Mal and I don't even remember her codename. Bumblebee.
Bumblebee.
Yeah. I also didn't know she was the first black female superhero. But I think that is accurate, right? Like, that is not just in the DC universe. What was I saying? Right. So they reframe stuff. Like, I have no idea how they got married. It probably happened off panel, and they just later were like, "Oh yeah, they're married." It's not like there was a story where the Titans didn't go to their wedding.
That's also
the idea. Yeah.
Sure. But a lot of stuff happens off panel. You know what I mean? I'm just saying that this is one of those stories that's like, we are looking at it in a modern lens and are going to reframe certain things that happened. Not as a plus or a minus, but it is. I
actually think that's one of the strongest story points here, though. The fact that they are consistently off panel, and the story of this is them telling from out of bounds when like they're allowed to be in the story and we'll reflect on that. But this whole thing is about what they're doing on the fringes and how segregating that is.
Yeah.
Sure. Maybe a better example would be when Mal fights the Angel of Death and gets Gabriel's horn, and Karen is like, I don't think that happened. It was like, well, then how did you get the horn? Like, what do you mean you don't think that happened? You know the Spectre, probably. I don't know. You've seen him. That being said, I thought it was really cool, and I had to look up to see some of these things are real world things, like the guy attacking somebody with the flag. So that was interesting. I really liked how they have one impression of Superman introducing Supergirl, and then it's not a particularly kind impression of why he kept her hidden for so long. But then when it comes to her dying, they are like, oh, he knows loss on such a great scale. He was afraid, that kind of thing. I thought that was pretty cool. That was a very subtle sort of emotional beat. And I thought their response to Cyborg was layered. This particular page is also very well done with him, Cyborg, and just the Cyborg parts. It was very layered. It was like, we really liked it. We appreciated Cyborg was on there, and they were very happy when he became the team leader, but also at the same time, like, why didn't they call Mal and Karen? Could there only be one black guy on the team at a time? Which probably is a real world thing, that they probably didn't want more than one black person on the team at the time, is my guess.
Yeah.
No.
That's what I was saying to part of what I was saying to Sushan yesterday. I was explaining how much I like this book. Is the characters are also dealing with editorial decisions that are made from DC Comics, and how even those real world decisions about the comics line itself have affected these fictional characters who are still down there experiencing it and not quite understanding that they're editorial decisions. Which I thought was really, really cool.
I thought that was one of the most interesting parts, a way to do commentary on real world experience through something, like through this fictional thing, but that is inherently related to the real world reality of that. Like the page you have up now, Donna and I forget that guy's name, but Terry, Donna and Terry's wedding. The real reason that all those things happened is that they wanted to make a story about the marriage of Donna Troy, and so all these characters came together and made sure that it wouldn't happen, no problems would happen. There's all story reasons, but from inside the story, it's like, why didn't they do any of that for our wedding?
Right,
that would have been nice,
That's when I literally gasped when I was reading it. I was like, Len.
Well, as I acknowledged earlier before we started recording, I did not get a chance to read this book. No, it's fine. It's fine, because I had flipped through it, and just looking at what you've done from an artistic level, this is right up there with the Black Lightning issue 1. I think this one even has more fun recreating actual scenes and art styles from DC history. A lot of George Perez lifts in here because it's dealing with Titans. That page that you're showing with Superman holding Supergirl is a George Perez lift. The very, layered page of Cyborg is a George Perez lift. There's a lot of there's a very cool Nick Cardy lift with Aqualad punches out Robin. It's really cool. I'm very interested. I started reading this, and I can see that this is right what I was hoping for. One, I love the two different points of view, which immediately introduces you to who the characters of Mal and Karen are, because they have been so infrequently seen through DC history. There's not any true sense of who they are as a character, what their voices sound like, except if maybe you've watched Young Justice. And even then, let's be honest, they're not the focal points of that show either in any way. Nope. So this is the first time you really get to hear their voices since the 70s when they were more integral to the Teen Titans. And as someone who read the Teen Titans then, I'll be honest, they got the short riff there as well. Mm-hmm. So I was wondering whether or not this book was going to have commentary on that. In looking at it and leafing through it the little bit that I did and listening to you brothers, I can tell that it did, which means that John Ridley is a man that has done his homework and is not shying away from going some places where other people have not gone before. And this may not be your exact cup of tea because you didn't grow up with the Titans, and maybe, this story might not resonate with you, but if you read it and if you have even just a bare minimum inkling of DC history, I think there are lots of points in here that will hit home that, like with JD, will be like a thunderstrike to you. And you'd be like, oh my God, I never thought it that way, and get you looking at DC history from a totally different point of view. The only thing I can knock on this is just, again, I said this about the first issue, and I say this about this, as beautiful as these layouts are, this font is tiny. So you definitely want to break out your magnifying glasses for it.
Well, it's not as for a digital reader.
It's not as bad physically because it's an oversized. It's a super prestige, so it's an oversized book. But I agree with you guys almost completely. There's two things that I do want to add though. One, we didn't mention it, but the other conflict about the whole cyborg thing, which I think is really fascinating that they touch on, is this: when it comes to underserviced populations, you're not even allowed to really have those nuanced conversations of why not me, because it would be perceived as taking down that other tokenized individual. So they had this weird internal guilt and selfishness like this. They wanted to reconcile their selfishness of like, well, why not us? But you couldn't do it publicly because then you would be trying to tear down someone else of the underserviced population, which is still something that happens today. It's like you can't criticize without it becoming a larger thing, or you can't question without it becoming a larger thing. And I thought that was really, really fascinating. It almost like happened between the panels.
Mm-hmm.
I think Karen specifically was very complex in that way. Like more so than Mal, she has multiple feelings and like a progression of her feelings. About different topic. She's like, I feel both of these ways at one time, kind of thing. Yeah,
which is great that they were successfully able to do it here. And it's a conversation you don't see really in comics, let alone popular fiction often. And I actually like this issue better than the first one.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah. I loved the dual perspectives and how they fought off of each other. It was a really, really cool story conflict that didn't exist in the first one. You only had the one point of view of Jefferson's. And then towards the end of it, you kind of got the point of view of John Stewart, but it was still very much just Jefferson's story. This was really, really cool because you were stuck in the middle of what the truth is, because these other two characters have their versions of truth.
Which is like page one, where
it's
I think
wonderful.
Mal is like, well, she wasn't there for a lot of this. And she's like, I was there for most of it. Don't worry about that.
If I was going to give a knock to this book at all, it's a minor nitpick, but there were some points in the narration where I wasn't sure, are they in the same room when they're telling their stories? Are they, because there's some points where they react on each other, and then there's other points when they speak to what this other person thinks. So there were sometimes I thought like, oh, well, maybe they're both in the same room, the physical same room, kind of talking the story. But then there were other times when it was just like, they're separate now. So it was
coffee.
Yeah, it was a little bit of like there was a little bit of like, it wasn't enough to like stop me, but there was a little bit of like static as to trying to think outside, like the fourth wall kind of like, how is this structured?
Oh,
but
yeah, I just thought of it
was
as
still incredibly strong.
Talking to the camera,
like confessional.
Yeah.
But the way that they react to each other's confessional, sometimes it's in real time, sometimes it's after the fact, and sometimes it's not at all. So I'm wondering, like, it made me wonder, like, structurally, what the deal
was.
You know what?
And again, I didn't read it, but just leafing through it, I did see some of that. And that read to me just real quickly as almost is like you're watching this documentary. And there are moments when they're talking because they're in the room, and there are moments when the producers show them what the other person said about this, and the person is like, "Oh no, he's lying. Let me tell you the real deal." You know, so that's the way that I look at it.
No, I would recommend this issue hard. Like not more so then, but Jefferson was an easier character to start with because he is probably the most known of Black superheroes, right? Of superheroes of color. So it was but not like Cyborg is still a little bit too modern for the story.
Well, it wouldn't work for him to do the first one. Yeah.
So I understand that being like the one to kind of draw you into this kind of structure with lots of prose and history. However, this one just felt like I enjoyed the shit out of this one a little bit more. I really loved these characters because I know nothing. I think
also that real world, that truly strange aspect of Mal Duncan's character, that he was a member of the Titans as Mal Duncan for some time. Like, why would he Robin, Kid Flash, and this guy, Mal Duncan, who has no abilities and, not even a costume or a code name, is very odd.
Well, how much did they give a shit about his safety too if he never got a code name?
Right.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So look, after reading this, fuck the Titans.
Right? The Titans. Wow. I was really impressed with how shitty the Titans are in retrospect, with like how they dealt with these characters and everything.
I mean, my feeling also is there's always a way. You can take any story and be like, but what if it was sinister? Yeah. You know what I mean?
This isn't sinister.
This isn't sinister.
This is not sinister. This
is
not
sinister, but you can always put a dark spin on any
not even
tale.
A dark spin.
Take Santa Claus, you can do it.
It's not a dark spin. She's very clear that these are children who have no idea what the fuck they're doing, and we're the victims of it constantly. They're junkies. Right. They're horny. They're completely unaware of the world and how it functions. Yet they're given power. Right. And it's more of a commentary on privilege and how people destroy it or destroy others with it. But it's not dark. It's not story. Yeah. It's not dark though. Like I think we sometimes have this conversation about like, they're toughening up or they're grittying a character. Right. And I don't think it's the same thing personally.
I think it is dark. I think it's a darker version that we were used to in the Silver Age, where everything was bright and shiny and cute. And so this is a more in-depth look at the consequences of those things, which is a darker form of storytelling than, say, the original Teen Titans were presented.
Well, I would counter you on that darker, and I would say it's not darker, but it's more realistic. And because the time period that this comic book, that these characters came out in the DC universe, was the time period when DC was finally beginning to let creators come in that gave more of a real world perspective to their heroes. This was the time period when, just speaking on the Justice League, when Steve Englehart comes over from Marvel and is asked to basically Avengers up the Justice League, and so that they stop looking like 7 big brothers and their kid sister that goes get them coffee, and actually looks like heroes that have distinct personalities. Now, they brought all of these creators in and put them on their big books, and they had some of them kind of like work on Teen Titans, and they tried to with Teen Titans, but they didn't really give an F, because at that time Teen Titans was just the Teen Titans, and Marv Wolfman and George Perez didn't bring them up to almost X-Men level in DC. But this is when they tried to put that real world perspective on the Teen Titans. it kind of like it didn't really fly. And what John Ridley is trying to show exactly what the real world looked like from a different point of view at that time. I don't see it as darker. I see it as just more nuanced. I see it as more realistic. And that's why I appreciate it. And I don't like the idea of selling this as, you know, this issue was better than this issue. I mean, of course, that's what we're doing because we're viewing things as in issues. But I think that put together as a whole, what this series promises to do is give you, in fact, what the title presents, the other side of the DC universe. And I think as a whole, this is great. You start off with Black Lightning because Black Lightning is the bigger name character. And because of his history, he touches on some of the bigger names in DC at the time. He touches with Superman. He touches with Batman and the Outsiders. He touches with the Justice League because he was asked to join them. And then you go to Mal and Bumblebee because they touch on probably the second biggest part of DC, which is the Teen Titans. Now, their major time with the Teen Titans wasn't when the Teen Titans were the big thing, but there's still commentary to have there as to why not, you know? And because, trust me, when Marv Wolfman and Perez were doing the Teen Titans, they made it a thing over the course of their history to bring back almost all of the original Teen Titans for special issues in one way or the other. They didn't do that for Mal. They didn't do that for Bumblebee. And there's a story behind that. And I appreciate this story being told. It's dope. Yeah, it's dope shit.
You used a better word, and I appreciate it. Realistic. I guess what I was trying to say before was there is a fabricated kind of inorganic way of making a character darker in order to fit into a story, or just kind of changing the perspective by 5 degrees, and you saw how much darker or nuanced something was. Sure. I don't consider the two the same, even though the result feels darker, or is a darker story being told.
Well, I mean, it's definitely
a darkening of the Titans to me. Like, this is not the same thing to them.
I mean, the darker could also be a function of the Silver Age was lighter than, most normal interactions. Like, not a lot of bad things happened in the Silver Age. So if it becomes more realistic, that will be a less shiny kind of version of that story. But even apart from, you get commentary about how, like, the Titans were not a very good group, right? Like, the psychologically healthy group. You could also tell a realistic story where the Titans were the closest of friends and they supported each other very well. You know what I mean? Like, one of those is not more realistic than the other one. And this is not really a commentary on the main story of this issue. It's just a very side part of the issue. Yeah, I mean, good things happen in real life too. Sometimes people are close friends that support each other. And, maybe it's entirely possible to imagine that there was a group of friends that didn't drive one of them to a psychosomatic illness that caused them to have to withdraw from the team. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's possible. I'm not saying it always happens. It's
I've been on the
group
brink.
Of friends I've had have gone down that route.
At least one.
I was going to say,
psychosomatic illness.
I've been on the brink of this friendship 5 or 10 times.
Just this episode.
Yeah.
This series is great, and I think it really benefits from being a single issues. Like, I'm really enjoying the single issue format of this, and I like the oversized dimensions of the book as well. I think this is
Who's
good.
Next? Do we know?
I'll tell you, Katana.
Katana. Oh, cool.
Katana.
Yeah, which makes me so, like, I love the fact. So we had Jefferson, who was adjacent to Justice League, Mal and Bumblebee, who are adjacent to the Titans, and now potentially maybe we'll get some, like, behind the scenes Suicide Squad, Task Force X type stories with Katana. Maybe
is she in the? I always associate her more with the Outsiders. Is she?
Well,
she's been with both.
She's been with both. Okay.
She's been with both.
Okay.
1983, Japan.
No.
Tatsu Yamashiro's life has been taken from her. Her home, her children, her husband are all gone. With nothing left but a burning pain and the sword that stole her family from her, Tatsu begins a long journey of healing, self-discovery, agency, and rebirth. This is the story of Tatsu Yamashiro, the woman known to many as Katana. A hero who became more than the world ever intended for her, ultimately making a family of like-minded outsiders who rally together for the common good amidst xenophobia and oppression.
See, that could be interesting too, because Jefferson Pierce's book touched on his time with the Outsiders as well, and we may get a different, a different impression of what that was. Yeah.
All right, what's next up on the docket? It is Daredevil number 26 from Marvel Comics, written by Chip Zdarsky, art by Mike Hawthorne, and a cover by Marco Cicchetto. A devil consumed. Matt faces a darkness unlike any before. Meanwhile, Elektra may be in over her head for the first time in her life. Daredevil must find the strength to continue the fight as all hell breaks loose. So basically where we are right now, we've got Matt Murdock in prison, and we've got Elektra as the new DD, and King in Black. It's a King in Black tie-in. I thought this was fun. I wish I had been reading this Chip Zdarsky run on Daredevil since Jump, but I've only read a couple of issues. Each one I've really enjoyed. I'm hoping at some point I'll be able to catch up. But yeah, this was fun. I was hoping to see a little bit more Elektra Daredevil, but I think the majority of this is Matt in prison. But I mean, it's great. And I didn't know that Typhoid Mary is just hanging out in public being Kingpin's bodyguard, I guess.
Yeah, maybe what with him being the mayor and all, she's been cleared of whatever things
he pardoned
she needed to
her,
be.
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was in some of the earlier Spider-Man issues too. Like he pardoned a lot of ex-criminals for their help during not Empire, whatever the event was before that. A lot of criminals were pardoned because they did well. Yeah.
Can mayors pardon criminals?
Yeah, you would think like they probably have committed federal crimes as well, right?
I mean, it's the Marvel universe. The top cop was a Norman Osborn for like a whole cycle.
I mean, we also have a story where Daredevil's in prison with his mask on. So
yeah, that's true too. Although not in
a little weird.
Wide open prison cell that he is in at night. He feels comfortable sleeping without his mask on.
Yeah.
You know what?
Academy last issue.
I found myself a good chunk of this book wondering like chafing or what he does under, because wearing a mask for that long period of time is probably going to mess with his skin.
Yeah, it's really going to start breaking out soon.
Maybe it's unstable molecules.
I think this taking the I really enjoyed this book. It was fun taking the King in Black kind of out of it. I think it feels like they're setting the stage for letting Elektra be Daredevil more often, like because all the stuff that had to do with Matt was kind of establishing the rules of him being in prison this time. They established that it is a 2-year sentence. He is not going to get out early. He can't do specific things. It was almost like they're just laying groundwork to put him away for a little bit, as opposed to just wondering when Matt's going to come back. Kind of giving Elektra a little bit more room to breathe. So this felt more like a setting the table issue, and then it was just hit with some King in Black stuff. Yeah. Which, I mean, as far as tie-ins go, this is kind of the way to do it. Keep telling your story and then just have a little bit of a conflict on the outside. This was great. Yeah, this was really strong.
Also, I'm looking at the page right here I have up, and I just now noticed that the concession that she has made, the fact that Matt does not want her to murder people as Daredevil, is she has taken her psi and blunted off all the points.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like a Billy Club psi combo.
Yeah, she's like can just bonk people in the face without murdering them.
Yeah.
She's wonderful as this character. I really enjoy the conflict. She's only doing it for Matt in order to get him to do something, but with any of these kind of like mild redemption stories, hopefully she will be a different character by the time they come back together, which I think is really cool.
I'll tell you one thing. The art in this book is bananas. It is some good art.
Yeah.
They tag team. It's Mike Hawthorne and Marco Cicchetto did a lot of the interiors together too. So like this book is awesome. I wish I was reading it from start to.
I think it's not just the drawing, which is very good, but also the designs. Like Elektra's costume is fantastic. We don't only see it on the cover, but Daredevil, the Matt Murdock Daredevil's costume is also really cool. I think we read an issue a few months ago that had that introduced. And that does a lot of work too. Just like what they have to work with looks cool. I agree with you 100%, Noel. When we hit the last page and that's when it gets more and more a King in Black tie-in. I found myself thinking, like, this is a great way to do a tie-in. Like, it is an event which, for comics readers and within the Marvel Universe, some aliens attacking is like a slice of life. It's like just something that happens, right? And so you don't really need to know what's up that much. And it's this story that is still part of the ongoing story. And that, I think, is the line that a lot of tie-ins succeed or fail on, something, or that they try to walk, is like, how do we make this? Do we make it part of the regular story, or do we just do a whole other thing? And for it to be Elektra's second issue, doing a whole other thing for 1 or 2 issues would be shitty. That would suck.
They're going out of their way to make sure that, I think they're going out of their way to make sure that everyone knows this is not a 6-issue change. This is a couple of years potentially change. Not unlike like with Laura, All New Wolverine, and with Bucky, Cap. Like, they were temporary changes, but they lasted in publication for 2-3 years, 2 through 4 years. It's, I think, with Laura too. Like, this will be a change for a while, which I think is really, really cool.
Yeah.
And I find excited. Yeah.
Who are these characters?
Nobody.
Oh, are they? Okay. I
think they're nobody.
I figured we already knew them.
Maybe they were a couple issues ago in Daredevil, because I only started reading Daredevil. But as far as them just being disgruntled mother-daughter, didn't need anything more. They were just nobody. Yeah.
Does Elektra have
side players?
Does Elektra have like parental stuff? That might be like issues. You know what I mean? That might be partially, if they are people that aren't side players, maybe that's why they're there.
No, I like the. This was it read to me as an intentional move to make sure that all this crazy stuff has a grounded personal thing for Elektra to deal with. It was really good.
Action figure experts chiming in. He says, "Is Lady Bullseye still around? That's a fight waiting to happen. Female Daredevil and Lady Bullseye. Lady Bullseye is around. We just saw her last week
in the Iron Fist book.
Iron Fist, Heart of the Dragon, which we all really liked. Issue 1 just dropped last week. Awesome miniseries so far for Iron Fist. If you're interested in that, definitely go check it out. And Lady Bullseye showed up.
Her costume design is cool too.
What?
Her costume design is cool too.
Oh yeah, I always liked Lady Bullseye costume.
Yeah.
Who was the other villain that they ladyfied back then? Because I remember there being uproar. This was pre everyone freaking out about SJWs ruining comics. They were complaining about like
starting whatever.
Yeah, they were complaining about like Lady Bullseye. What's next, Lady Skiltman or Lady Blood? Like,
right.
Yeah, just put it. Where's originality anymore? He's just making them all female. Like, all right, dude.
But yeah, that's pretty funny. Action figure expert. I'd watch that. I hope Lady Bullseye shows up.
Yeah, me too. I didn't even think about it.
Wait. So roughly when was this? Was this like 90s that she was created, or
no? It was like 10 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was Brubaker created her.
Yeah.
Who was another Lady Fine villain? Nothing springs to mind. Yeah.
I mean, there's a Lady Electro. There's like a lot of the Spidey villains had like a whole female villain cadre. Cadre?
Yeah, cadre.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how often they hung out, but they might have.
Often.
Oh yeah.
Like sleepovers. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. A little.
Move on to Future State Suicide Squad #1 from DC Comics, written by Robbie Thompson with and Jeremy Adams, with art by Fernando Pasarin and Javier Fernandez. The Suicide Squad enters the Future State era as Amanda Waller uses Task Force X to save the world and remake it in her image. But what happens when the team shows up to stop her? And in the second story in this extra-sized issue, Black Adam, the immortal one-time champion of the wizard Shazam, rules the planet Kahndaq in the 853rd century. Can he save the future from a threat rooted in the past? I was not expecting that secondary story. That was fun.
Yeah.
But the first story was also fun. I was disappointed to see that Connor Connor's the new bad Superman. But yeah, I actually really like this issue. I thought this was a lot of fun, and I was very surprised by the second. I had no idea that we were going to be seeing DC 1 million.
Ooh, I was real excited about that.
Although the way that Superman got taken out was weird.
That was nonsense.
And didn't understand. But what did you guys think, Brian?
I really liked it. I liked the first issue or the first story. I too found myself wondering, like, why has Connor become this version of Superman? But the reveal at the end, I thought, was really interesting. That this is not the main Earth. I don't think, right? Mm-hmm. That was everybody's read on it. They're on Earth 3.
Until you said that, I kind of forgot what the ending was.
Oh yeah, well, so I don't think they're the suicide. Like, they're the Justice Squad, right? It's like, so the titular Suicide Squad doesn't show up until like the last 2 pages.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, and they say we had to come to Earth 3 to get. So I think Sinestro and Brainiac are the good guys in the beginning of this story. And it's interesting too. One of them, I think Brainiac is like, remember who you are, Luthor or Kent, but on this Earth, Luthor is the good one. That's his better side. But that is not made entirely clear, and I think they were maybe hit it a little too well for that reveal to work as well as it could. That it seemed like Brainiac was saying the Kent side was the good side, which had they gone the other way, it would make a lot more sense. But all of their updates were pretty cool, and like how this guy is hiding as this guy, and
they're Thunderbolts.
Yeah. I'm interested. It also doesn't make much sense why the Flash character is like, I always wanted to be a hero. Like, that's not the kind of thing that a Flash in Earth 3 is likely to have said. But maybe these are people. Maybe this version of the Justice Squad is Amanda Waller, who's probably pretty similar in both universes. She's pretty borderline anyway. Has taken heroes and put a bomb in their brain to get them to be more villainous. Yeah. Oh, and the second one was awesome. It was fun to see the 853rd century, and that carried most of it for me. But also this return of magic, and Teth Adam, is a pretty cool character in this, and I'm intrigued to see. Like, he's given up magic for a long time, but then it's back now, and he is presumably the only one that can save them. Maybe because he's magic. Maybe that's why they took out Superman so easily, JD, is that they were magic. That's what I
was just thinking. Yeah. He is vulnerable to magic, and it didn't occur to me that these are all magical creatures. That makes more sense.
And he may still be. I mean, he's way more powerful, but maybe magic still gets his goat.
It's like the original Green Lantern. Like, he's got all that power, but if you hit him with a block of wood.
Yeah. I always thought that worked out better in a world where Green Lantern is going up against guys, like in the first few stories, who aren't targeting him specifically, right? Mm-hmm. Like, if you're going up against a bunch of bank robbers and you got a weakness against wood and nobody knows that, it's probably going to be fine. It's just the evolution of comics where, like, as you get into that world, and it changes more and more from our world, these obvious things pop up. It's interesting.
I always kind of thought that too, Brian. Like, it would dawn on me sometimes I would read just like you, old Green Lantern comics, and someone would have wood, and all of a sudden he would look sick. And I was like, he's not allergic to wood. It's just that his power doesn't work against wood.
Right, he still has his normal human defenses against wood.
Right.
Oh no, a rocking chair. Get away from me.
My only weakness, one of the most common substances.
Yeah, he can't eat at a table. He can't go on a hayride.
Yeah, picnics are definitely out.
Beforehand, he was definitely a champion whittler.
That's the real pathos of Alan Scott.
Yeah, this was fine. The first story, it was a little slapdash, but I did like the end. Like, I liked the reveal, so like it was fine. Like, yeah, I dug it. The second story, I've never read 1 Million, so I have absolutely no connection to it like you guys do. And it was, again, just kind of fine. This was like a solid B- for me. There was nothing wrong with it, but it hit a lot of notes that don't do anything for me. So like it was just on merit. It was solid.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. B- is fine. Yeah, I'm like, man, that's
It's a respectable grade. It's passing. It's fine.
I like on a bad day when I read. So this week overall was a little weak. Where it was a little light. Like nothing really exploded other than other history of the DC universe. On a stronger week, this might have been a C. But this week it was just like, yeah, it was pretty good.
So it's on a curve?
Yeah, it's always on a curve. Believe it or not, it's objective.
I really
Or
want to see
subjective, yeah.
more of Gold Beetle.
Well, JD, I think I have good news for you. It looks like she's going to feature pretty heavily in the next part of the story.
Nice.
I kind of want like page 1, panel 1 of her just being taken out.
Yeah.
Oh,
Next
no.
story, like, oh no,
This will upset me.
Yeah.
subverting expectations.
That I'm excited for Gold Beetle too. That looks cool. Certainly not where I thought that story would go, given that it's the future state is this progression further and further into the future.
Is Gold Beetle a thing?
Robert Monroe Jr. brings up a good point. What was the Justice Society's table made of? Speaking of wood,
Magic. Is
probably made out of magic.
Is Gold Beetle a thing from that I don't know?
No. I don't think that's part of DC 1 million. That's just that's a new thing.
Have we talked about this before? Sometimes with comics are just like reveal, and you're like, is that new, or am I supposed to know? It's a thing? So I wasn't even sure about that.
Yeah.
Actually, our expert wants to know: do you think you could take out Alan Scott and Hal Jordan with a number 2 pencil? Not Hal Jordan. Oh, because it's yellow.
It's yellow.
Oh, shit.
No, he'd capture it by Actually, I think that was in his first adventure. There was a yellow rocket that he caught by the red nose cone. So he'd handle it with the graphite and wood.
By the graphite? Yeah, he would handle it by the
graphite. Exactly.
I mean, wait. What if it's not a sharpened pencil?
Ooh.
That's the end of Al. Just one super fast number 2 pencil through the both of them.
One story. His reign was 1 issue long.
Or it could be a yellow colored pencil, right? So then you hit him with the point, and the wood part gets Alan Scott.
Perfect.
Yes.
Len,
Nobody
do you
tell
have
any
experience with the DC 1 million?
Yeah, I remember when they did that. Yeah, and this, I mean, it's cool. It's cool to see the 1 million characters again. I don't like splooge over them like I see a lot of people seem to like. Oh my God, 1 million! That was so cool. It's like it was alright. It's just like it was 1 million. It's like okay. I didn't necessarily think the designs were all that great. So, but it's cool to see this. I will say, leafing through this again. Is another book that has, some very impressive art, impressive designs. It looked kind of cool. The Gold Beetle looks cool. I just wonder, all right, but are they going to keep the Gold Beetle? It looks cool, but it's only cool if Gold Beetle is still around. You know what I mean? Like, or is this just for this initiative? And then next thing you know, it's back to Blue Beetle and Gold and Booster Gold, who cool characters, but I don't know.
Yes. I think you might be disappointed on this one, Len. Like Yara Flor and the next Batman, I think are being set up as like characters to continue. Gold Beetle seems like such a mashup and like just a fun zany kind of thing that I doubt that will continue. I mean, who knows? You never know. Somebody could pick her up, in a few years. But yeah.
Also the new Flash from Justice League.
Oh, right.
Continues somehow.
Yeah, she looks cool. Like that.
No, not this one, the non-binary one.
The non-binary. Yeah.
I think their name is Jess.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Oh, yes, they have been named. Too. What's that? This Flash is also cool. Yeah. The new Flash has been named and has a last name also, but it hasn't come up in the comics, so I don't want to say it here just in case, somebody doesn't want to know. Also, John Fox is in the story, who I thought was cool. No, it's not Swift.
I've never Smith. I've never read 1 million. I think at one point I was just like, oh, it's an omnibus. Maybe I'll try it. But then I read the contents. I was like, nah.
Oh man, they are
minis, right?
No, it was. There was a 4-part mini, and then it ran through, I believe, the annuals.
The
of
annuals.
that year, and then continued in Hour Man, which I do have an action figure of, which I thought was surprising that even exists.
Yeah.
But it was part of like an Android line, and I was like, "Whoa, DC 1 million Hour Man!" Slightly after 1 million, but the All Star Super, the what do you call it? Golden, the Superman Prime is one that I was like, "Man, that is a figure that I want," and it's, to my knowledge, has never been made. But I always, every once in a while, I Google it,
like a shiny one, like a metallic one. Like remember the Silverhawks had actually like silver paint on them.
That would be cool.
That would be dope.
Yeah.
So the story was good.
Yeah.
It was good, and it had these characters, which I love. But JD, I got the sense that you were going to move on. But what's with all this not talking about Patreon.com?
Oh my
Answer
God,
me
I'm
that.
sorry. There's been a whole episode so far where we haven't talked about patreon.com/JohnnyDestructo, the place that you can go to and help the show out if you're so inclined. You can also just comment, like, and subscribe and do all those things. Also, if you don't know and you want to just listen to us without looking at our gorgeous, ugly mugs, you can just go to iTunes or wherever you find podcasts and listen to the audio version of this. We have an editor now. Usually it was just me doing it. Occasionally Len would chip in. And now we've got Andrew who's editing. Everyone say hi to Andrew.
Hi, Andrew.
What's up,
Hey,
Drew?
Don't cut this out.
Yeah. And you can also go to youtube.com/CultPopGo, and you can join us on Facebook /CultPop Podcasts. Let's move on to the next book. I'll tell you what it is. It's Post Americana #2 from Image Comics, written and arted by Steve Scrose, from Maestro's creator and We Stand on Guard co-creator, ! Carolyn and Mike's mission to stop the new president is interrupted when they're captured by a gang of cannibal maniacs, all caps. They're not just on the menu, they're dinner theater too. And these man-eaters love to play with their food. Whoever wrote this really had fun with it.
I hope so. Maybe they were like, I hate doing this.
I hate every word I'm typing. More than the last word. Again, this was fine. It's very Garth Ennis-y. I certainly enjoyed this issue more than the first issue. The first issue, I was just like, oh my God, this is so edgelordy and just, we're trying so hard. And now we actually, I feel like a little bit more emotionally connected to the characters this time around. So I did enjoy that. However, there was a particular instance of storytelling that I thought was strange, or at least confused me. We have a character who is on his knees with a group of other characters, and we see them all get gunned down. And then we see who I thought was that same guy wake up.
Yes,
and
that was strange.
They look very, very similar. These two characters, these two Asian characters with, like cheek-length long hair. And I was like, oh, was that just because the way we saw those characters be executed was on other people's, personal holog watches or some shit.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, oh, was that just a fake broadcast to make them think that they had executed the prisoners and now they're waking up? Turns out, completely different situation. And those are two different characters. But it took me a couple of panels to figure that out. Other than that, I thought it was fine. It was okay. What did you think, Noel?
I had fun with it. I actually thought it was fun. I wouldn't disagree with anything that you had issues with, but it kind of scratched that hyper detailed, grody kind of itch that I had this week for some reason. Like after watching some B horror movies and peering over some James Stokoe art, I was like, yeah, that's great. Cannibals. This is gross. Is that a whole swarm of maggots over a skull? Cool. Let's do this. Yeah. And Scrose is so hyper detailed with so many things in almost like a Chris Burnham kind of way that I just like looking at it. It's I like it. I just like it. But I'm not going to argue with like some of the character designs are a little similar. I really love her character design. Great. And I did remember the first issue was a little bit ago. So it took me like 2 or 3 pages to remember, oh, he's got the plans for the base and she's getting him to a place. Okay, got it. But other than that, no, I was pleased with this. It was a quick read. It was gross.
the autonomous limbs.
That was cool. That was really cool. Because I don't think I even realized in the first one, or if I did, I forgot that she was amputee. Yeah. But was it even apparent that her limbs were cybernetic in that, or like?
Not all four. Like she had like one, like they showed one or maybe a hand and an arm, but the fact that she is completely cybernetic for the most part is a reveal in this.
Oh, okay.
I remember when they first revealed that, and we were supposed to think that her arms and legs were eaten, and I was like, how long has this guy been out? Like, she is fully healed from having her arms and legs eaten. That doesn't make any sense. And then she literally says that like the next page or 2 pages later. It's like, oh, okay.
And she's got like cybernetic hookups in her leg. Yeah. Right there. Yeah. I like the way that they came back together too. Like from a visual standpoint, it looks cool as she is in this fight. They're in the what do you call that? They're in the arena, and while they're in the middle of fighting, her legs fly in and attach to her, and then she handles herself with that for a little while, and then her arms come in, and it was cool looking pages too. JD, I had exactly the same experience for the first. Like when you flip back and forth, it's clear that they are drawn as 2 different characters, but it really threw me, for a little bit. Like I thought exactly the same thing. Like, was that a fake out? And I also agree. I like this one better than the first one. I don't see much to it. It's nothing that revolutionary has happened yet or that interesting. And there is a lot of just like, check out how disturbing this stuff is.
Yes.
I could come up with something this disturbing. That's
exactly why I like it. Like it really is that B movie, gross, post-apocalyptic. Like, I don't enjoy those movies for their plot for the most part, just as long as it's not incomprehensible. Yeah. We're good.
And that's not usually the kind of thing that will grab me. If it's got a cool design to it, it can. And this one borders on that. Like it could, as it progresses, it could go either way. I probably wouldn't keep reading it unless I knew that if this was a 5 or 6 issue miniseries and I knew that, maybe I'd stick it out and see what's what.
I think maybe it is. I think it's just a mini.
Okay.
The only bit of dialogue that I actually sort of had an emotional reaction to was they're speeding off, and these 2 people are just, as soon as they met, they were in the shit. And so now that they're finally escaping the shit, she goes, "What's your name again?" "Mike." "Fuck you, Mike."
Yeah, that was good. It was well done.
Yeah. Fuck you, Mike.
I'm also intrigued by this last page. Like, I mean, it's nothing revolutionary. There's a guy in the shadows watching them, and who is that guy? But
he's wearing a cape, though.
He is wearing a cape. That's true. You know who that guy is? Do we already know who that guy is?
Isn't he the guy in the first issue? It's like sort of a takeoff of Batman.
Was there? I don't remember.
Didn't that guy get killed?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't recall.
That's how much I know about the first issue.
Yeah.
This would be a great. I think this might. I don't want to advocate for one format over the other, but I could totally see this being a pretty popular trade.
Yeah.
Kind of forgotten about in issues, but like just one little good collection of 5 or 6 issues.
You know what? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Len.
Oh, I was just going to say not to champion one form over another. Yes, this will be a great trade. Just leafing through it because the art is very engrossing in that way. But I can see this as a television series. I can see this as just like big dumb fun, man. It's gross, and some of the line work is a little a little hard to discern like backgrounds from the foregrounds, just a little bit. But for the most part, I think that it's just looks like it's bananas fun and could be like the next Mad Max.
I could even see it being like a gory adult animated kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. I didn't realize until this panel that this guy is wearing someone else's scalp and head of hair.
Oh, yeah. Me either.
Yeah, it's strapped on.
What a character.
There's a lot of very on the nose comparisons to current day. Like you've got families in cages, hyper nationalist American jingoistic bullshit. The richest of the rich being in this cordoned off little perfect society. Like, there's a lot of stuff in here that would be ripe for parody on film or in cartoon or something.
Severed head bolos.
Yeah, I mean, I walk down the street every day. I see fibers.
Have you been to Texas? Please.
All right. Well, those were this week's books. We did it. Now we're gonna do something else. We're gonna do book club, The Vision, from Tom King and Gabriel Hernandez Walta, which is a wonderful book. If you haven't read it, The Vision is great. I have little to no interest in The Vision as a character, up until like the MCU films. I've never really glommed onto that character. I've never quite understood his relationship with Wanda because he's an AI, and he seems kind of personalityless. But then somehow someone fell in love with him and they had babies. How the fuck does this character work? I don't understand it. So I've never really cared about it. I also was never a big Avengers guy growing up. So a lot of obstacles in my way for the Vision. So when he showed up in the movies, I was like, oh, this guy's kind of cool. And this particular series from Tom King was a very pleasant surprise. I really, really enjoyed it. And especially going in, reading it after really not liking Batman, his Batman run. I think the Vision. What is happening?
I'm not touching anything. I'm trying to remove it. Stop.
I haven't touched it. Anyway, basically, we have the story of the Vision, who, after his relationship with Wanda, has grown lonely and decides, you know what I'm gonna do, guys? You know what would be a good idea? What if I made a wife? What if I made my own wife with an AI, and then immediately made 2 children, who are teenagers? Let's skip all the fun parts of raising a child and go straight to the shitty teenager stage. That'll be a good idea. And we're going to move to Washington, D.C. I'm going to continue being a superhero. You guys are going to go to regular school like regular children, because that's what you're going to be. And my wife is definitely not going to murder somebody. That's how this is going to go.
It reminds me of the Futurama line when they come in on Bender and they say, hey, you making a wife? And it's part of one.
But yeah, I thought this was just awesome. We had done this for the Stores Book Club a month or 2 back, and now's the perfect time to discuss it since WandaVision is on the television. And the last episode of that was great.
Ooh, it was.
Tell me what you thought of this book, Len. We haven't heard from you in a while. Tell us.
Well, I'll tell you, JD. I, too, am someone who was not that enthralled with the character of the Vision. And I was an Avengers guy, so I knew him as just, their Red Tornado. He was their android on the Vision. They both entered into the superhero world around the same time. So that's the way I've always viewed him, except that they did more with him because, oh my God, he fell in love and he got a good looking woman to boot. So I was like, oh, good on you, bruh. So other than that, I could care a whit about the Vision. So when I even heard that they did this book and Tom King was doing it, who I've been kind of like up and down about his writing, I was like, maybe it's something, whatever. But in opening up and reading this book, I was actually very, very surprised at how much I quickly was drawn into the story of the Vision and this family that he created for himself, how his family was trying to assimilate themselves into this community while also dealing with the aspects of their very own creation and what did it mean for them to be created by the Vision and what were his end goals for them versus what their own end goals as AI were becoming as they continued to grow and their intellect, expanded more and more. And the more I read this, I honestly found myself saying, okay, think I'm beginning to see what the hype about Tom King is, because I thought this was just so, it was so spot on that these were four in this family that the Vision created. There are four distinct voices that still come off as, AI, but still come off as individual points of view. And I thought that was well done. I never believed that I would, if you had told me that I would read a book focused on the Vision, and there would be a moment where the writer creates a way for the Vision to actually cry, even though he doesn't cry. But there's a scene where the Vision, having, lost one of his family, has a recording, I think actually the eye of one of his family in his eye, and then plays a moment in time from that point of view. And without showing any tears, you understand that this is the Vision's way of weeping, and that would in turn invoke tears from me. I was, fuck you, Tom King, for bringing me where you have brought me in this moment in life. As I sat on my couch yesterday and had to put down this comic book and said, I give a fuck about the Vision. I give a fuck about Virginia, the Vision's wife, and her perils and what she is dealing with. I give a fuck about the sacrifices that each and every one of these characters makes in this story. I just thought that, and I gave a fuck about the art fit, the story was tight. I did think that the story itself, to be honest, maybe did a little bit of verbal gymnastics at the end to kind of backtrack how the Vision is actually should not be wanted for any type of crimes. But you knew that was going to happen. At some point.
Well, that was a lie, though. Even at the very end, he's not
right.
wanted, but not justifiably, which, maybe out of character, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that it did a little verbal gymnastics, but you saw that coming, and by then I was all in. So it's kind of like what I always say when I do my movie reviews on the show mission, is that if the creators have worked well in creating characters and scenarios that you are totally engrossed in, you'll forgive minor faux pas because, hey, sometimes that's just, the bill you got to pay to get to where you want to go. And that's what I felt with this. And I was very happy to have done so. And also, because we read the trade, I was very appreciative that this is not only a trade, but this is what trades used to be. They used to be the full story and then a whole lot of backup stuff. Like your trades used to be your DVD copy of the story. And that's what I also appreciate about this trade. There's scripts in this trade. There's panel breakdown in the trade. Look, right.
Do you see the discoloration? That's right. When the special features start in this book.
Right.
For you, those of you who are only listening to this, it's about halfway.
No, it's a little bit. It may be
more,
a little,
actually. Yeah.
A little bit more than half.
Well, I think it's 456 pages, and there were about 250 pages of story, right? Something like that.
It's 12 issues, 12 22-page issues, 12 20-page issues, so it's about 285 pages of story, and then the rest of it's back matter.
Yeah, the rest of it's back matter. The rest of it is the DVD of this book. And while some of it, just like every DVD, some of these special features didn't hit me. I still appreciated that they were there, and I appreciated that they just helped show off the story, the thoughtfulness of the storytelling that went into this. And I honestly applaud this as one of the finer pieces of of comic writing as well as comic book presentation that I've read in a while. This is really cool.
Agreed.
Disagreed. This is not a comic that I liked. I don't like. Oh no, that was just I moved around, but that was unrelated to my feelings about this comic. Aside from his usual Tom Kingery, I felt that the concept of the synthezoid family was not explored. They were not. I mean, I know they were trying to make a point, like, oh, they're the same as everybody else, but nothing about this tale. Nothing about what happened was because they were AI, you know? And they didn't do much beyond just the regular, I talk in a stilted way kind of thing, right? That was my feeling about it. Tom King's thesis at this point is one that I actively dislike. And maybe had I started this when it came out, I was interested in it when it came out. I just didn't pick it up for whatever reason. I started his Mr. Miracle and I liked that, but I fell off of it. It might have been different. I might have felt differently about it rather than seeing this as just another entry in Tom King's "what if everything was bad" thesis. You know, there is a sense of dread from page 4 or so. You know, when you see Norma and her husband, and it's like, they'll die later, you know. I also thought that he uses some metaphors in here which are just not good. And philosophy, like at the very end, he's got Captain America, Steve Rogers' lighter, right? And he's like, how could how could this still exist? What's the wonder of this? And he uses this to say, well, there is no wonder. That's just how it's made. It's made from vibranium steel alloy. So 2 points. One, Marvel Comics wise, they made Captain America's shield and this lighter out of the alloy that they had. That's what they did. And 2, that seemed like nonsense to me. So I looked it up, and there are regular lighters that are still around from the 1940s. That is not why that lighter is still around. Like, lighters last, you know, like Zippos last. I also felt like that thing with the vase in the beginning. This is a vase of water that looks cool. They call it a vase, despite the fact that you cannot put flowers in it. Why would they call that a vase? It's not a vase. It's floating water. Or put some artificial flowers into it. It was a created thing that doesn't exist as a metaphor for something else, and it rubbed me the wrong way. Noel seems to disagree.
Okay, you literally just you undermined 2 very apt metaphors. Oh, really? I got to be full screen for this. You undermined 2 apt metaphors by focusing on the trees other than the forest.
No,
the fact that this artifact. The whole point of that vase being called a vase, yet it doesn't function as a vase, is a metaphor for the entirety of the Vision and his family. The fact that they are AI, and they don't function as AI, they only do normal things because they fuck up those normal things. They are not like
I know that's AI, not like. I know that's what he was attempting.
Same thing with the lighter. It doesn't matter that the lighter was or wasn't, or that made of vibranium, or that Zippos exist now that were created in the 19th century. It's that all he is doing is making a comment on the fact that it's made of sterner stuff. It has nothing to do with the merit of the device. It's the fact that it was made of something that is stronger over time, which is a metaphor for the Vision and what he tries to make.
I suppose it is. But no, I know what he was going for with the vase. It's very blatant. You know, it's like, I'm going to make up a vase that doesn't exist so that I can create a metaphor for the thing that I want to tell. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And also, I mean, just like, so I do like the Vision, and I really like him in the MCU, where he is this like kind of noble, innocent messiah kind of figure, good guy through and through. This is not that character, and I didn't like it as much. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't want to see a story where he was put through the ringer. And I know that that's what this story was. That's the story that Tom King wanted to tell. I just didn't really like reading it. And, you know, I found myself thinking like, okay, I don't, you know, the Stranger Adventures has really rubbed me the wrong way. And I don't like his ideas about that kind of thing, but I want to give it a chance. But I did still go into it a little with a chip on my shoulder. And I tried to divest myself of that chip, but I may not have fully done so. That being said, I like that Rick Remender book that we read a while ago a lot. And I sometimes have problems with Remender as well. But
how? I'm sorry, but how is this Vision? And I'm talking about primarily the character of the Vision in this. Yeah. How is he different than the Vision that you like? Because this Vision is still a paragon of justice. He's forthright. And he is just like that Vision, maybe a little bit more so, because the Vision has never been played as somebody who wants to necessarily be human or necessarily experience things from a human point of view. And I'm not necessarily sure that this Vision is played that way, but it's probably played that way more than he has been historically. But that only makes sense considering the history that the Vision has gone through. He's been torn apart, reprogrammed, and then reprogrammed ad nauseum. So it makes only sense that now maybe, especially as they talk about at the beginning of this, he now has a new assignment that while he is the Avenger through and through, but he's also the White House liaison. So he has an opportunity to maybe step away from the superheroing. So maybe he wants to try and rebuild something that, you know, he did have at one time, no matter how false it was. And you show there's a beautiful like middle part, I think like issue 7 here, where you see the history of his relationship with Wanda, to kind of like catch you up if anyone knows, you know, the Vision that you know, show you how that Vision got here. He kind of wants to recreate that, and he is the most forthright person throughout this book. Only he at one time has to do, as it mentions, you know, make the compromise that family makes you do. And I thought he still read like the Vision that I know, but for the first time somebody did something with him.
You know what? That is actually, Len, I totally agree with you. Like, the Vision's characterization is the least of any issues that I have. Like, it's fine. I didn't like that he lied, you know, about that situation. I was like, that sucks. And I found myself thinking also as I'm reading this, like, if this was a story of 4 androids, or synthezoids, as technically the Vision is, that I had never read before, it was just like, you know, its own thing. Would I feel this way about it? And I probably wouldn't, right? Like, a lot of it is just the fact that he is taking these characters, and at this point, that seems to be what he does, is like, I am going to put these characters through the ringer, and I'm going to re-examine it with the question, what if they weren't that good? You know?
I don't think... Yeah. So I don't think he's bad.
No,
it's not
Vision.
It's not a what if they weren't that good.
Yeah.
It's not.
What if the world wasn't that good? You know what I mean?
It's not that good. That's just it. Like in all of it. It's
I
never
don't
been
read
that
stories.
altruistic.
This is the real world. I live here. I don't need to read stories about what if people didn't live up to what they could be. Sometimes I do. Sometimes those stories are great. I think I'm partially just annoyed at Tom King for taking these characters that aren't like that and making them like that.
I think strength of these characters, first of all, the strength of these characters can endure a little bit of mud. And also, too, their ability to supersede that kind of reality, what to make them heroes, not the fact that they were perfect to begin with.
Of course.
So him being
but
able
it's more the style of his story that is cynical. You know what I mean? Like, that's the style of story that it seems like he wants to tell.
I didn't take this as cynical. I took this as hopeful beyond darkness.
No, I guess it could be.
His want for a family, because his sin is that he wanted love and lied to keep it. He didn't kill anyone. He didn't murder anyone. He just kept trying to hold on to love.
Right.
Which is
the vision doesn't come off that
character.
badly in this. You
It
know what I
doesn't
mean?
come off badly at all to me, personally. He comes off as a earnest child with all the information in his head. However, just maybe not realistic, or realistic is maybe not the right word, but maybe not the common sense to understand that a loaded gun is not a good idea.
Neither do any of his family members come off badly. Does Virginia, his wife, maybe hide some stuff that she shouldn't? You can question that, yes. But did she implicitly kill someone? No, she didn't. She stopped a bullet from going through her. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, she definitely didn't kill that guy. She did kill the Grim Reaper, but that was
what the fuck is the Grim Reaper?
No, I think that was. He broke into their home to kill them.
I was going to say that was self-defense. So
right.
Can we like? So I don't think any of us are. We're not going to completely agree on the goal and the tone of the story. But can we talk about the structure for a minute?
Sure.
So I read this for the first time last year, and I was going to just read like 2 issues of it and then go to bed, and I ended up reading the entire thing in one sitting.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because I think that the way that it's structured is so incredibly engrossing, in a very intentional paced way that single issues work at the same way that a trade works. Because if I was reading this in issues, I would be on the edge of my seat for a month. But being able to do it in trades, he didn't adjust the structure for it to only read well in one format. And there was a point in the story where there was a point of no return in the story. So if anybody's thinking of going back and reading this, I'm not going to say exactly what happens, but at the very end of issue 4, when she phases through a bullet, it was a point of no return in the story of this story is going to be that real, and I have no idea what the fuck is going to happen next.
Mm-hmm.
And that was so.
We did have an idea for it. Like, it was telegraphed from moment 1.
Wait, hang on. Yes, that instance.
Yeah.
But the stakes of the story were exponentially.
Yeah, where's they going to go
in every single way possible. The fact that collateral damage does exist within the confines of this 12 issues. The fact that these characters are not always going to make the right decisions. It was all solidified at the end of issue 4. And it was, I was excited. We read so much that I got excited about it because, oh my God, this is different. And I don't know what's going to happen now. How will they redeem these characters to keep them in continuity? You know what I mean? Like in the back of my head, I think those things when I'm reading these stories, like, oh, this is going to be cyclical, or this will end here, or that's fine. It's nice for now. That was a point in the story where I was like, oh shit, what's going to happen now? Which is very scarce when you read monthly comics like we do.
Yeah. See, I think had I read it when it came out, I might have felt more like you, right? Like, I knew what was going to happen in this book before I ever started it, not just because of like what I think I know about Tom King, but just because I've heard people, talk about how like gripping a tragedy it is,
tragic for the characters.
Well, sure.
I was not privy to the fact that it was going to be tragic for everyone else around the characters also, which is not something you see in monthly comic books by the big 2 often,
sure,
if at all anymore. Yeah. So it's just like how I was surprised by The Last Jedi. It was the first time that this type of structure was placed inside of this format of a Star Wars movie, which makes me think, well, it makes me doubt that I know what's going to happen next, like I did for every other Star Wars movie before. You know what I mean?
I'm reminded of I've heard that people sometimes like stories more with spoilers because they know what's going to happen. This is just something that I was reminded of, right? Like you're more comfortable. You know what's going to happen. You're not on the edge of your seat. You're not anxious about it.
I'm the other type of like I don't need an inorganic twist to make me not know what's going on. I'm very comfortable with like a journey for a journey's sake. But when you are able to circumvent my expectations in a creative way, I have more weight for the story. And this did more than once. But that 4th issue was definitely the one that like knocked it over the edge, and
I think like the more we talk about it, I really think I would have felt differently had I read it when it came out. It would have been a circumvention of expectations. I'm thinking, also, to be honest with you, there's a lot of crap in the world, and there has been, and my tolerance for that in my fiction might be a little different. Like, I definitely remember reading Identity Crisis, and being like, whoa, I can't believe they would do that. How interesting. And now I think like, hey, that sucks, and so that could just be a place where I'm at in my life right now, that I'm just like, I don't want that kind of story. And so when it opens up with like, these people will be dead later, I was like, oh, here we go. So to speak to your point about structure, no, it's well structured. Oh, also, the art is really good. I should mention that. Great. The art is really good. Although I thought that Vision's skin was his costume. I didn't know that he could take off the green parts. But that's a whole other issue that we'll get into in depth in my Vision Skin podcast premiering next week.
I just he can make what he wants.
Yeah, I'm down with that.
Well, I think the Vision, he definitely, because he's, like I said, he's gone through the ringer more than once.
Sure.
So I think this iteration of the Vision probably can kind of like mutate his appearance.
Or he just like this time he was all red and he's like, but I'm still going to adapt, put a costume on that's like kind of green too. I mean, there were elements of it that I liked, and I tried strongly to not be, against it from the beginning, but I still was a little, I still was like, all right, what do you got for me, Tom King? Look, show me what you're going to do.
I don't know if anybody can come up with, like, from the top of their heads, there's certain creators that we do have personal bias against because we haven't liked other things that they've done. Mm-hmm. So like if I was approached with, hey, here's a new Rob Liefeld book, I'm going to have real harsh preconceived notions as to the failure of storytelling and or art style.
Yeah.
But it could be the best thing that's ever been created.
Sure.
And it's going to take a bit for me to actually like get into it to realize what is good.
And I mean, and I definitely was like
personally.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, everything, it's all subjective. There's no good other than what we like. But, and it's definitely like Tom King was doing what he wanted to do. But every time some bad thing happened, I was like, here we go, like, all right, now let's get going for the next bad thing. I know it's coming, just like I suspected another bad thing. You know what I mean? And that's the story he was telling. That's what he wanted to do.
I desperately want you to read, or I would like for you to read something of his that is not steeped in continuity or the big two. Sure. Yeah. Like read The Sheriff of Babylon.
Okay. I've heard. I think you and another friend of mine said
it's just a wonderful mystery detective story during wartime, and it's
right.
I mean, I feel like maybe you would have a more or a less weighted experience.
I might. It's kind of like The Punisher. I don't like The Punisher at all, but I watch action movies where people behave exactly like The Punisher, and they're fine. You know what I mean? So I might. And I mean, Batman Catwoman is great. Rorschach has been really good. It's not like I don't think he tells a good story. It's that when he, like, what seems to be his story as far as superheroes goes is like, oh, I don't want to read this. But you're telling it, and I'm reviewing it for the show. So, yeah.
I'm sorry you didn't like it.
That's okay. Even in this, I can see there were things that I enjoyed. There were things that I thought were well done. And I'm glad that you guys did like it. Especially Len, because he seemed to really like it.
Oh man, I just think it's the bee's knees. And I was also really surprised to see characters that I wasn't anticipating showing up, like Victor La Mancha.
Oh, that was awesome.
That was so cool.
Yeah, that was a downer too, right?
Yeah,
now he's gone. Yeah.
So
only for now. He'll be back.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I think he's shown up in The Runaways since this. This is one of those stories that is. This is one of those stories that's in continuity, but people can use it if they want, which seems to be kind of, again, seems to be Tom King's sweet spot. Like, he plays with continuity a lot, but maybe it isn't, maybe it isn't. Who knows? Like,
You
they
know,
don't really talk about it.
I do like him wearing regular clothes. That's a cool look, right?
Yeah.
The Vision wearing a suit and tie or a sweater vest. That's
Sweater
cool.
vest.
Yeah.
Mr. Rogers.
Yeah.
I can understand where Brian's coming from on one regard, is that the Vision himself, towards the end of this book, I went, I guess this isn't in actual continuity. Is this an alternate reality? Is this a dream sequence? Is this, like, things were getting so bad that I was like, how are they going to have the Vision be a character moving forward in the Marvel universe as a hero? But then I thought that the way that they wrapped that up, I was like, okay.
Right. Now he just has a dark secret.
We just don't
Something
talk
he
about
was
it.
willing to do.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah. But
Yeah.
I thought this was fantastic.
You know, I guess also, like, I would have really liked to really love this book. I was excited about it when I first heard about it way back when, but
Let me give you a hug.
thank you.
Well, everyone out
Shaggy
there
son of a bitch.
in the Geek Nation, let us know what you think of The Vision by Tom King and Gabriel Walta. You can join us here every Sunday at 10:30 a.m. where we go live and we talk about the week's books. We haven't decided on what the last Sunday of every month is. We do a couple of the books from the week, and then we do a book club. Have we decided what the next book's going to be after Vision?
No.
No, we can talk offline.
Yeah, we usually don't.
Yeah.
Oh, can I choose it?
It depends on what you're going to choose.
Yeah.
I mean, what's your idea? Can we talk about it? Do it. What is it?
Yeah.
Is it the history of the Marvel Universe?
Oh, God.
No, it's
Do you
not.
want to see it? It's right here.
No, please
Phil,
don't.
do you have one of those?
I do!
Quick,
Yeah.
Len, while he's distracted. Oh, he cut himself.
I want to propose this trade, and
Uh-oh.
Oh, no.
I don't have it right
That's
here
pretty
with me,
easy,
so
sure.
otherwise I'd grab it. It's called the.
Technical difficulties, Len.
Everybody's like, "What are y'all doing?" See. You know what? Never mind. I'm not going to.
No.
Y'all don't want to hear from
you're
the
back.
president.
No,
You were
Len, you were
frozen.
breaking
What is
up.
it?
We couldn't hear you. You were like frozen.
What's happening?
Oh, y'all were spinning. It was interesting. Anyway, it's I don't have the book right. I don't have the book right here, but it's called The Long Con,
Oh.
and it's about it basically is about this zombie apocalypse happening in the midst of a comic book convention.
Yeah.
And it was I found it to be like a lot of fun, and I think it might be a fun read.
That's it. We're going. That's
Okay,
what we're doing.
let's do it.
Although I don't know if it's in print right now. I'll have to take a look
don't
and
think
see
it's
if we
in
can actually
print.
get copies of it.
This came up at a in-person bookstore or book
Yeah.
club once, and you looked it up. It's not in print.
Yeah.
Can I, before we go away, can I say one thing? So back in November, we reviewed Kaiju Score #1, and I kind of shit on it because I didn't enjoy it all that much at the time. And
I remember that one.
You mentioned in Long Con reminded me. I continue to pull it, and I've been reading it. I'm on issue 3. Changed my mind.
Nice.
This is one of those books that, like, it took one issue to kind of grow on me, and now it's just a silly action movie, and it's very fun. So anybody interested in Kaiju Score,
Nice.
go for it. It's gonna be a fun little collection.
Awesome.
Hey, while we're at it, can I say I watched the first episode of Resident Alien, and it was fun. It was
Oh.
Oh, I
good.
forgot about it.
Yeah.
I like
Actually,
Alan
maybe that
Tudyk.
should be a book club too.
Oh,
Let's
yeah.
do double book clubs this month.
Wait, let's wait till the TV show is done so I don't know the story. Or do I want it in the comic? Ooh.
I'm sure it's going to be completely different considering the
It might
show's
be.
procedural and the comic.
Oh, is it
has
not like that?
ended.
Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, yes and no.
Okay.
I read the
It
first
definitely
trailer.
wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I thought the characterization was going to be a little different, but there were some genuinely, truly funny moments. And I mean, Alan Tudyk is like, whatever he's in, I'll watch. You know, I mean, he's great. Yeah.
Anyway,
So there we go.
I'm enjoying WandaVision
Oh yeah, me too.
and The Stand.
I haven't seen that.
I haven't watched it yet.
Stephen King's The Stand.
I started watching The Stand, and it didn't.
You wouldn't stand for it?
Nah.
I had this notion of reading the Marvel adaptation before I started the show. I got I got like 12 issues into it. I think it's only like 35 or 36. But I mean, was fine.
Action Figure Expert says, be sure to check out a movie called Velocipaster.
Do not watch it. See, he was there on Thursday when we were riffing on it. The Action Figure Expert.
Or watch PG, Psycho Goreman. Enjoy it.
Watch PG, Psycho Goreman. Yeah, that was a bunch of fun.
What the hell is that? I never even heard of that.
Yeah, no, I never
It's
heard of that.
amazing.
Is it PG Psycho Goreman?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
PG Psycho Goreman.
Where is it?
It's available digitally.
Mm.
Yeah, I rented it for I think it was $3 on Amazon or something.
It's
Not bad.
It's like Power Rangers, but as a rated R wet puppet horror movie.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Wet puppet.
Puppet? What genre is that?
So it's like a subgenre in like the 80s of horror movies where it was all animatronics and puppets, but for some reason they always looked viscous.
Oh, okay.
So like a wet puppet movie.
So that was not intentional. It was like spaghetti western.
Well, I mean that's sure.
Okay.
But like the puppets always had goo or wet texture to them, so it's like wet puppet genre.
So it wasn't just that the puppets weren't made that well. It was that they chose to put goo on.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Did you ever like House or something, like the big scary monster lady, and she just was dripping with goo? It's a wet puppet. Yeah.
Oh, all right.
It's a lot of fun. Basically, the premise is this little girl and her brother find a hidden secret gem in their backyard, which controls Psycho Goreman, who is a extra-dimensional terrorist. He's like a giant monster, but because she has the thing, he's able to control him, and he has no choice but to do what she says. So it's very, very funny, very cute, but also very bloody.
She's like making him do things that he would not normally as an assassin do. I got
Imagine like an 8-year-old sociopath having the power of a god.
Yeah.
Oh, so she's not so great either. It's not like she's a poor man. Let's have tea. She's a
straight asshole, and it's hilarious.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's a dickhead. Yeah.
Okay.
It's great, Psycho Goreman. Anyway. You can tweet at me at Jado's Hero Complex. You can go to check out Brian Lieb at brianliebdesign.com. You can tweet at Noel at Mr. Bartocci. Len, you can tweet at him at the Bat Tribble, and you can find him any place that the Bat Tribbles exist, which is everywhere. And that's it.
They're there.
The Milky Way galaxy, home of the Bat Tribbles.
The Black Tribbles.
The Black Tribbles, right. Also home of the Bat Tribble.
All right, guys, I gotta go run my store. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We will talk at you later. Love ya.